Hi, Tom Cole, the coach for Steve Taylor Community Connection, and I'm here with the boss, Mr. Steve Taylor, and a really, really talented young lady, Riley Runnells. Riley, you know, you do so many things, but see if I can get some of this right. You're an editor and a writer for the city paper, also for Mature Living, which is kind of an oxymoron because you're so young, right?
Yes.
You know, you're very young, but that's the talent that you have. You also do the Findlay paper, right? You have a podcast you just interviewed Steve for, is that right?
Yep.
Yeah, how'd he do?
He did really well. Threw some hardballs at him, but he did really well.
You didn't make him cry
now. No, I didn't.
Okay. Riley, you went to OU. It's a great journalism school. You know, your mom, I'm sure you've heard this a million times. I mean, she's one of the great broadcasters in the history. You know, Toledo's a 72, 73 market. It's a great market. It's a great community. Your mom is one of the greatest ever to do it. And now she's a tremendous community leader with ProMedica. Your dad was a Mud Hen manager. I watched him manage the Mud Hens, a Tiger, a great baseball man. And I think he's doing something in the art world too, isn't he?
Yeah, so most of my life he was with the Rockies, but now he's doing Art of Baseball, which is his art brand. He repurposes old baseballs and he dyes the leather and makes portraits of different players.
So the question I was getting to, Riley, is with all that talent around you, what did you take from each one of your parents? Because you are so, I was telling Steve, you were so great to Taylor Automotive at the City Paper Awards, but you're so multi-talented. What did you take from your mom? What did you take from your dad?
Well, obviously, the obvious one for my mom is her journalism skills and her people skills. You know, my mom taught me growing up that, you know, everyone can be your friend and you can relate to everybody as long as you're kind. So I definitely took a lot of that, and that's helped me a lot with interviewing and journalism. From my dad, I think the not seeing a ceiling for your life. So my dad always shot for the stars, and I mean, you don't hear about, he's just a local kid from Greeley, Colorado who made it to the big time, and you know, being in the MLB was his dream and he achieved that. And so for me, I got to watch him do that. I got to watch my mom impact so many lives in Toledo living out her dream. So I think from both of them, I really took the courage to follow what I'm passionate about.
Very cool.
That's amazing. What a neat story too. So you talk about your passion. You've come back to Northwest Ohio. We talked a little bit on the podcast about how a lot of people leave. We talk about the brain drain that unfortunately Toledo gets sort of labeled with. And I disagree with that statement. I think we've obviously interviewed a lot of folks, but you're so talented, you probably could have gone anywhere. Why did you choose to come back to Toledo?
Well, it started when I graduated. I wanted to come and be with my parents for a while and just figure out what I wanted to do while I was applying for jobs. And then I started part-time at the city paper. I fell in love with my work and I decided to stay because I think too, growing up in Toledo, I've seen it go through such a renaissance. And I think being here now as an adult, I can appreciate so much more all of the hard work that's gone into revitalizing the city and even the areas around it. You know, I'm a Perrysburg resident, so I get to see Perrysburg, I get to visit my parents in Sylvania, I get to work in downtown Toledo. It's just wonderful to be around. And then, you know, all the young talent that I have seen here. I'm a part of so many young professional organizations where we are networking and connecting, and watching all of that talent raise up and help each other in the area, I think has been definitely a piece of encouragement for me to stay.
You know, Riley, with your personality, and this is such a quality that Steve has, and I'm not saying it because he's sitting here because I say it all the time, he knows this. Everything to me is about being an old guy and having been around. It's top-down management. How you handle people. Everybody needs to be handled a little bit differently. The boss says, oh, I treat them all the same. No, it doesn't. Everybody has a different personality. Everybody has a different skill set. Steve is a genius at it. Knowing your personality, I would think that you would be a great boss to work for. Hey, did it take you a while to learn how to handle different personalities, or did it just flow for you right away?
Well, I think more of that experience came from college because I did actually get to run my magazine at OU, the Thread magazine. So learning how to, you know, handle and mediate arguments between coworkers, or, you know, figuring out that this person might need a little more hand holding than this person. It's definitely a good lesson for, not only in the workplace, but also within your personal life and
Sure.
dealing with friends and family. But I think it's mostly about just treating everybody with kindness. I don't treat everyone equally in the sense of their work, but I do treat everyone equally in the sense that I
Yes.
think everyone should be equal. And so just making sure that I'm always leading with kindness and with a fair heart. I think that's kind of the biggest
Those are good
thing.
terms. I saw a great post the other day on Facebook, something about kindness is inexpensive. Everybody can do it. And you never know that the one word that you say to somebody they may have a rough day or having a rough month or year. You may turn that whole paradigm around for them, and you can be a catalyst to turn that around.
And I want to say too, I think there's a huge element of being a servant leader.
Yes.
I think the best leaders are servant leaders. You're looking for, and
Right
I was
there.
going to say, sitting right next to me.
And your mom,
right?
Steve, your mom. Yes.
My mom is the one who taught me this, and it's how can you take your leadership and
Yes.
help others?
Yeah.
And so, I'm not always looking at, what can my writers or other people on the staff do for me? I'm looking at, what can I do to help them?
Yes.
If somebody's making a promotional material in our design department, I'm immediately like, okay, let's help with the copy and let's get this written out. And, if my writers are struggling and need a mental health day or, just need a little break, I'm always quick to help them and, assign the story to someone else and make sure that I'm trying to satiate everybody's needs.
Oh, that's fantastic. So we had a fun conversation where you asked me a bunch of questions for your podcast. You've interviewed a lot of local people. Is there a response or an answer that someone has said that sticks out to you that's like, oh, this was a memorable one? Because you asked so many great things about our city and about what our city means to people.
Yeah.
Is there something that maybe stuck out to you?
This is kind of a cop-out answer because a couple different people said it, so it stuck out to me a couple different times. But I think I asked this question of, if you could change something about Toledo, what would you change?
Okay.
I had a lot of people tell me that they would change the perception of Toledo.
Right.
So I think, a lot of people, like we were talking about with the brain drain, I think a lot of people look at Toledo, and especially if you've grown up here, and think, okay, I'm never gonna come back here. I need to go out and do my own thing, or, go to a bigger city or whatever.
Right.
What they don't realize is we have such an incredible city and incredible network right here.
Yeah.
I mean, and not only that, if you are somebody who likes to fly the coop, we are such a good middle point between so many different places, Detroit and Cincinnati and Columbus,
100%.
but pretty much everything you can find there, you can find right here. We have state-of-the-art singers and actors coming for our Toledo Opera. We have incredible concerts at the Huntington Center and the zoo. We have a museum that has award-winning pieces and rare exhibits rotating through there all the time. I think it's really hard for me to hear people talk about how Toledo is lacking anything with how rich our culture is here.
That's great. So I'm sure you've been able to see a lot in your time back, and then obviously just with some of the responses you've gotten, could you share with what do you think the best kept secret in Toledo is?
Ooh,
That's a good question.
that's a really, I was
like
gonna
that.
say, look who's throwing me the hard balls now.
Yeah.
And it come with some curveballs. You were throwing the heat, I'm coming with some maybe
No.
some change.
I do, another kind of cop-out answer is I think our talent, and especially our young talent.
Okay.
Like the way that we are fostering young people here, and there are people like you both and like my mom and my dad who I look up to, who are working with young professionals and working to develop them into people who will do so many great things for our city. And so I think the best kept secret is some of these professional development organizations, like Epic Toledo, I think does a great job, and Leadership Toledo, and Rotaract, and through the Toledo Rotary Club. It's incredible, the organizations that exist for young professionals to develop. And even if you don't want to stay here forever, it's nice to at least have something while you're here now to then help you maybe reach another point or another level that you're looking for.
That's great. No, good stuff.
I had a unique experience the other day. I was on this committee for the City League Hall of Fame. City League, that's promoting the city of Toledo.
Yes.
And what struck me yesterday, and I know the reason I bring it up is because I think both of you are this way, is that I got to put in some people that had been forgotten about. They were deserving, but they were way back in the day, and people had kind of forgotten about them. And so they're going to go in, and I called them on the phone to tell them that you're going into the City League, City of Toledo Hall of Fame, sports, whatever. And the impact that it had on them. One fella couldn't talk.
Wow.
Right.
Another guy got choked up, and I felt so, in my little part of giving back to them was so much greater than when I got so you two are givers. You give back to people. And I think if more people realize that giving back to folks unexpectedly is more rewarding than anything. And Steve does it every day.
Right.
And I know you do too, Riley.
Yeah.
It's such an important part, I think, of behind the scenes in our city, and we talked about it, about how many people actually in our community are giving back,
Right.
Yes.
and doing great things. And we got a great business community that really is supportive of Toledo and
Absolutely.
all the great organizations that we have.
Well, and we see that firsthand with the city paper. We're entirely ad-based with our revenue. So it's really lovely to see, I can especially shout out Lupita's and Christina de Carlos, because Carlos and Lupita will always say how Toledo City Paper has so impacted their business and the people who have dined there and their success over the years. And being able to see the impact that we're having through writing stories or putting somebody's photo in the paper.
You make somebody's business.
Yes.
You literally make somebody's business.
Or at the very least, we make somebody's day. And
Yeah.
that to me, if I can help raise awareness to important causes, or even with our 50 over 60 awards in mature living, when I called, like you were saying, when I called to tell some of the people that they were honored, so excited, and they just, are beside themselves and so humble.
So what's next for you and maybe the city paper, and what else do you have going on?
We're just getting through the year. We have so much coming up where I feel like we're always kind of like whirling dervish, just trying to get everything
in
done.
your awards show, Riley, was fantastic. I told Steve a number of times how great it was, how great you were to us. The whole evening was incredible. You guys had to be very proud. The place was packed. I've never seen the Toledo Club that crowded.
It was packed. It was a lot of fun.
Totally packed. Parking lot completely full. People were parking across the street on another lot. And it was just there was a great synergy in that room that night. It was really cool.
Yeah, and that's, for us to be able to have that event and foster that connection, because, it's people from hairstylists to car dealerships to
everything
food
you can imagine,
and they're all under one roof and talking to each other and having a good time.
And that's business to business to business.
Right.
I've run into a ton of people that I didn't know what they were doing, but I saw them that night. I heard about their business, and now I see them out and about.
Exactly.
It's very cool.
Exactly, and that I think is truly to the heart of what we're trying to do, is just foster community connection.
Yeah, well, you did that, and you did it very well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So that's awesome. How do you make it better? How do you grow it, right?
Steve always asks those questions. You had the great night, and he says, well, how do we make it better?
No, but it is a great question. If you rest on your laurels, you're never going to go anywhere. So we are always trying to look for ways to improve not only our events, but our publications and how our staff works with our in-house operations. And I think for us, we're just really trying to make sure that we're listening to the community. We want to know what the community wants to hear. We have like our Toledo Pride issue coming up in August. So I have been really working hard to reach out to people and hear, what do you want to see from this? Or even with something as simple as our city chef issue. It's like, what restaurants are you into? Or what do you want to hear about from these chefs? And I think just making sure that we are always listening to our community and always striving to learn and realizing that we don't know everything and that we have to keep learning to get better.
You and Steve have very similar philosophies. Plus, does this young lady have great voice, broadcast voice?
Right, I know, exactly.
I sit there, I'm listening to Riley's voice, and I'm thinking, oh, geez,
I know, it is the bane of my mother's existence that I didn't go into television.
You have a great...
I wondered if she had tried to get you to...
You have a great broadcast voice,
and
the smile and the whole look.
That's so sweet.
It's true.
Well, it's a pleasure having you in studio today, and like I said, we're able to throw you some tough questions after you peppered me. Maybe Tom can be next. But thank you for coming in today. Thanks for being on our Taylor Community Show, and look forward to doing more work with you in the future.
Thank you guys for having me. I appreciate it.